Hi and welcome to Dynamics Update. Today we are going to talk about the new release, the one that is going to first ring customers right now, that is called 10.0.41. Back from vacation is Gustav Sundblad. Hello.
Hello, Johan. Well rested, I hope.
That's nice. Yes, I am well rested as well. I've been working for almost 4 weeks, so I need a new vacation, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's never been more clear. I
Yep.
share that sentiment.
Yes. So today is 10.0.41, which is, at least for some of my customers, is a very important one. And we'll get to that later on in the episode. But I'll pitch it over to you, Gustav. You can start.
Thank you, Johan. It's also denotes it's a major release, as you can see in the asterisk. Also clear. I was thinking we should consider splitting this episode into two because of all the features that are coming, but because we are a bit delayed in publishing the episode as well, so we'll just have to pick the nicest bits. But I implore you to read up specifically in the finance and supply chain areas. There are a ton of stuff coming in this release, and I know for a fact that many in Sweden, at least, have skipped version 40 for summer vacation reasons. So you have a lot of features to read up on. So it's hard to pick out like favorites, but I picked out the ones that are closest to heart, and I think the ones that, for me at least, are most important. So not in any particular order. I started out with finance, and there is a very nice feature to handle the year-end close process. This is not a specifically new feature. The year-end close process, like the steps that you can outline, you can actually link them into the specific activities that you do. Johan, I'm not sure if you've been doing in the year-end close processes, but I have, and they can be very complicated depending on your inventory model. You have a lot of steps that you need to do. A lot of people work very hard around these year-end closing process, and there are applications like third-party applications that their only purpose is to actually just give you a list of activities to perform, and then you check the little boxes and you do notes and stuff. And this is a feature or the functionality that actually already exists in F&O, so it's a good thing to read up on. The feature in itself is a validation feature. Instead of just giving you a list of things to do, it can also help you to detect issues and suggest a resolution. And this particular feature is for ensuring accurate ledger balances in both currencies, accounting and reporting. So it kind of gives you some best practice. And my guess here is like the next step would be Copilot for year-end close process, or maybe an addition to the Copilot for Dynamics Finance that will help you in the year-end close process. And it makes a total sense that this is as much as you can automate around this and just like provide information or just submit, is this correct? Press yes details. I think that would help a lot of people focus on more fun stuff because it's a really tedious process. So that's a lot of information for just one feature here, but I think it's an area worth looking into for finance people.
Yes. I think it's really good to have that supported within the tool, because then you have like links to the specific places that you're going to do the specific things. Because it's per definition not that often that you do a year's end closing. So I'm guessing that if you haven't done it and been employed at the same place for 30 years, it might be that you don't remember all of the steps. So having something that supports you and actually integrated with the tool that will send you to the correct place to do the correct things and maybe give you some instructions along the way is probably not a good thing. But as you hinted at, my experience with years and closing aren't that extensive.
No, but I think this is a process that lives in a ton of Excel files around the world, where we've always done it this way. We will keep on doing it this way. And it may be not like the first thing you try to push for a new implementation, but it is there and it's available to use. So I would suggest for any product that's in the operations state to look into it if you don't have it.
Yes. So the first feature I will talk about is the one that lets you deep link directly into finance and operations records from Dataverse. So, as we have mentioned before, you should absolutely view Dynamics as a one platform, but it's not one application. And that's an important part, because you have some limits on getting from one to the other and back. I mean, we have had for a long while the ability to deep link from F&O into CRM, for instance,
Yeah.
since CRM has been a web application for longer. So they have a more built out system for managing deep links into like customer records and stuff like that.
Yeah.
F&O has traditionally, as you know, been when you go back to AX, it's been a Windows 32 application, which means that it has its own limitations because it's a silo. Now we have a possibility to actually get from like a Power App directly into an F&O transaction or a table line or something.
Yeah, customer details or product details or something. Yeah.
Yes. And I think this is really, really good because, as I mentioned on numerous occasions, F&O is a quite complex application. So finding your way there and getting to the right place, I mean, it's the same as basically the same as you talked to about the year-end closing. Having something that points you in the right direction and gets you to the place you want to go, instead of you having to remember where to go, it's a
Yeah.
good thing, I would say.
Absolutely, and not just this is a link. When you get to the link, then open the filter and search for this customer. It kind of saves you a lot of steps.
Yes,
and it makes it's a well, household feature that should have been there for a while.
yes, and on that note, I would say that I'm really, really fond of the search functionality in F&O, being able to get to the right place by simply knowing approximately what it's called
Yeah,
is a good thing.
absolutely, it's really cool. All right, so that will be fun to look into how to generate, and all of these links will fly across teams. To no one will know how to navigate anymore. You will just use URL links. We'll see where it goes.
Yes.
So my next is also on finance. This is a short one. This is not a new feature either. The bank reconciliation, or actually the modern bank reconciliation. It's the feature is to improve the performance of these advanced bank reconciliation and some enhancements, new capabilities. This is another one where another one of those tedious processes that you can have that many people employ third-party applications for. And again, it's all often because you think that the ERP doesn't have the capabilities to handle all your complicated reconciliation matters. It's this thing I've heard all my life, I was going to say, but it really does have some nifty capabilities, so it's worth looking into that one as well. I stuck on it because of the use of the word modern. There's not that much modern in the way of banks, unfortunately. Is at least not on my experience, and it's the same with like accounts payable and receivable. I tried to add like, let's revolutionize accounts receivable. Why are we stuck with these bank files? But it's they are there to stay, unfortunately. But if you can at least handle how to reconcile these boring text files from your bank, why not look into it? It has rule sets. You can set it up and configure. If it's not up to par with what you need, then sure, go ahead with a third party. But it's worth looking into before you buy additional software.
Yep, absolutely. So my next feature that I was going to discuss is one called Trace Goods Through the Supply Chain. And the reason for this is so that if you're a company that buys things from vendors and assembles them in some way, shape, or form, then you need to know in some cases exactly which component came from which supplier in which batch at what time. Because if we look back in time, we can, for instance, mention the Samsung Galaxy S7 batteries that started to explode on airplanes, and that's not a good thing. So being able to figure out where all of those batteries went, exactly into which devices they went, and being able to like get the list of all of the devices, all of the customers that bought that device, and being able to send them an email and say, please give back your phone because the battery is not safe anymore, is a good thing. And this is a feature that is actually built outside of FNO. So it's built as a Power App that utilizes the data from within FNO and displays it and makes it searchable and makes you be able to figure out exactly how to do it.
It's very cool, and I think you see a lot of these apps nowadays as well. My next one is also, this is not a new one, the Visibility app has been one of my favorite apps for quite a while because I've worked a lot with retail, so the on-hand question always pops up. It's always been like a performance issue, historically at least, to have all of these API requests going to your live ERP, what's on hand. So the Visibility solves that in a matter that it exposes your on-hand inventory from Dataverse instead, using a REST-based web API, but it works off replicated data from your FNO database. So that in itself is great, but it has gotten a lot of nice new features, and these two, I can take both at the same time. One being the track time series inventory in Visibility. And basically what it means is that instead of just getting the on hand, you can now, in the response that you return back, you can say when the stock will change. So if you have an order with an estimated delivery date in 7 days time, you will be able to see that amount. You won't be able to see maybe the order information, but you will see we have 10 in stock now, 10 more are coming next week, perhaps. And that's really cool because it gives you a way to fulfill customer promise and help meet customer demands, really. So it's in public preview now. It will be GA in September in 41. So this is another feature I really want to try out. It can go up to 180 days in the future. So there's a limit there, just to be aware. There's a lot of nice new ATP functionality as well. You can query the time series based inventory changes. You can calculate your available to promise. Very nice. Using rules as well in Visibility, because you can define what and how it should respond. So that's really cool, but it gives you more data to work with in how you respond. Another one which is really cool, and I didn't think this was coming, to be honest, but this is sync external changes through Visibility. So in the one way, you expose your on-hand and able to offset all of these performance-based on-hand queries and build another like a rule set to provide on-hand. Here's where you can actually sync changes back to FNO through Visibility. So previously you could do like soft reserve, so you could update the on-hand in Visibility with an API call in order to keep it up to date. So you make a sale from an external sales channel, perhaps you want to deduct that on-hand. And then when you get the actual sales order in and it gets posted, they will balance out. But this feature actually allows you to post an inventory journal from inventory visibility or through inventory visibility. So let's say you have consignment stock that you want to handle in a specific way. You could do that using the Visibility app and allowing it to create and post inventory journals that you configure which ones to use, which offset accounts to use, etc. So it's really cool. So you can actually do not just offsetting inventory balance, you can actually use it as a way to control your inventory levels. So these two features really add to, it's building a little bit of a supply chain solution in itself in Visibility, but of course it's dependent on actual supply chain management. So two really cool features for Visibility that I'll have to find some time this week to actually try them out internally as well.
Yes, so my next feature has to do with purchasing, and especially approvals around purchase requisitions. I have a theory that the less people that are actually within the Dynamics application, the better it is. So giving people a mobile app to be able to approve purchase requisitions is probably one of the coolest things I've seen in a while, because that means that you can actually, you will definitely cut down on lead time. Being able to open your approvals up on a mobile device in your pocket and not having to have a computer nearby or a browser or whatever is a really good thing. So this makes the process of approvals much more accessible than it used to be. So that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's, I think the whole the use of apps has really like taken off, as we mentioned earlier as well. I think it's so important that a lot of this new functionality or existing is dependent on FNO, but you don't perform the tasks in FNO. So you really need to be like on top of how to govern your Power Platform environments as well, PPAC, and then that will of course be more true soon from the entire ELM process. But just being aware that you need to. I mean, I have several customers or early clients that have separate teams of ERP and CRM. So whenever we need to deploy a solution, we want to be able to talk to them. So making sure that everyone is on board with everything that needs to be installed and implemented in Power Platform to realize the use cases of these applications. It's important to have good teamwork or good organization there as well.
Yeah, I tend to describe it as they are still two silos, but there is a big pipe between them. So whatever you do in one silo will ultimately affect things in the other silo, whether you want it or not. So
Definitely.
I think that's important to understand. And we could actually, when we talk about Power Platform anyway, we could also mention that during the summer, the UDE environments, the Unified Development Environments, the one that are hosted in Power Platform, actually became GA, which means that they are available. And as we remember Lane saying, the date of the year 2027 is getting closer, which means that LCS is eventually going away. And when we look into that, we also need to make sure that we have an understanding of exactly how much storage we are using for our environment, because that will be very costly going forward.
Yeah.
So if I don't remember wrong, you actually have a feature that is sort of on that note.
You'll have to remind me which feature we were discussing there.
You had a cleanup job.
Yeah. Sorry, of course. I skipped the finance part because I had so many finance, so I had to go back to my list.
Sorry to catch you off guard.
No, it's a little bit of a lot of features. I was scrolling through the list to see if I needed to get one out because of the time management reasons here. So yeah, I was a little bit off guard, but you're right. It was a credit and collections customer balance statistics deletion job. It's one little feature. It's hidden in the list, but I as you, I reacted on this one because it allows you to automatically or based on time delete stored customer balance statistics. So if you have a lot of saved statistics historically, you might not need to go 4 or 5 years back. It's one little job, but it's another one on top of all of the other ones that you also discussed. So I agree. Somewhere we need kind of a workspace for just data cleanup jobs. That should be really helpful to kind of make sure that you have everything running as you are using the application. You've seen them as well, these notifications that pop up, right? You should run this job, you should run this job, etc. You should have a kind of a list of all the jobs that might be relevant to you, and not only get the notification blimp and then you forget about it.
Yep, exactly. And I think, I mean, there has been for a long time on Learn a long list of maintenance jobs that you need to set up in order to clean out unused data, especially like log files and batch job logs and batch jobs and DMF logs and whatever, which you should probably have set up already. But
Hopefully.
it will become even more important once we go into Power Platform, because at that point, all of your data will Microsoft will start charging for all of your data.
Exactly. And I mean, there is no better time than now. If you log on, you can see how much capacity you're using right now. As long as you've linked, I think I'm not sure if it pops up anyway, but I think you need, as soon as you've linked your Power Platform environments, then you're able to see how much you're using from a capacity level. And that might change. I mean, there's a full disclaimer here, when you move into PPAC fully, that those things might change, but at least now you have a way to see if you're way over capacity or not. And so
Yes.
you can actually start those things already now. Maybe this little feature here, the customer balance deletion job, is not going to help you like tip the scales. But if you have 10 or 20 of those jobs, that might really help. And in any way, it's prudent data governance. So just from a performance perspective, it makes sense, not only from a license enforcement and saving. So making sure the system runs smoothly.
No, exactly.
I actually do
So
have a couple of others, but I'll try to be quick about them because one I just wanted to mention. This was an old favorite of mine as well. It was that was the one I was scrolling about earlier. It's the Oanda. It's a third party like currency provider. Do you know there is like a currency exchange rate framework within Dynamics? It was born in 2012, and it just came along for the ride into 365. It's basically a framework. Yeah, that you can use to connect to currency exchange providers to import them into, because that's another one of those integration points you see in all implementations. We need to get the currency rates from our central bank or our provider into the system every Monday, Tuesday, etc. So you have to build it, right? You do DMF and you do other stuff, but there is a currency exchange rate provider built into 365 that you can extend. It's very well documented actually, and it's quite easy. But now one of the main drawbacks with it is that the built-in one, at least, you have to go to a provider, and normally everyone wants to get their central bank rates. Sweden Central Bank, Norway Central Bank. Now Oanda actually provides that, so you can use the Oanda provider and connect to your central bank. Hopefully, I was trying to find a list. They have 100 plus central banks, they state. I couldn't find a complete list. But I think that this is one thing that you should look into if you have that requirement to bring in central bank exchange rates. That's a very classic development point. I've seen at least 5 times that people build these things, and now there is a feature for it.
yes, my final one for today is actually has to do with commerce and POS clients. The thing here is that sometimes the POS client will become will not keep the connection alive to the server, which means that they will be offline, which means that it will take a while to log into them. They have actually changed the settings in the application now, so it will try to keep itself online as much as possible, and also try to keep the connection session alive. So if you, for instance, have a firewall that times the session out and disconnects it, it will actually try to keep it alive anyway.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think it's the OPOS connection and the OPOS library. You know, in Swedish, if you put O in front of something, that negates it usually. So like bra is good, obra is not good. So it's really fun to implement POS. Whenever I struggle with OPOS, because God knows you can struggle with these OPOS drivers and running hardware installations, like, is it POS or is it OPOS? And then it means that is it good or not good. So
Yep.
OPOS is a source of nightmares for many, but it's also, I mean, it's what we have. So if this can help making it more stable, then that's great. I mean, OPOS is used everywhere. It's not a Dynamics thing. It's just sometimes working with hardware installation in a retail store can be troublesome.
But so OPOS is basically like having a unified print driver.
Yeah,
it's one standard driver used for many different providers of hardware, instead of
exactly.
having one specific driver for each provider.
Exactly. Yeah, scanners. I mean, any device that you use, and it's really I'm not sure about the legality here. I think there's a company that provides them, and whenever I need to go to their site and download it, it's like a blast from the past, because they haven't updated. They update the drivers, I think, but the site looks like it was built in 1990. For good reason. They don't have to update it. It's just a list of devices, but it's interesting to see that it's still going on. There is no better way to do it than to do it like OPOS.
Yes, that's good. All right. So do you have anything else?
No, that was actually, well, I can just mention that when we already speak about hardware station, that there is now support for the Android hardware station extensibility. So you can actually, that previously was just the sealed version, I think, but now you can actually extend the hardware station to support physical integration with physical printers with Android devices, which makes total sense. If you have Android devices, you want to be able to do physical printing. In many countries, that's a requirement. So now, previously, you were kind of tied to the normal hardware station that you had to install. Now you can do it with Android devices directly. So it kind of makes the implementation easier, or it makes maybe the rollout easier, and the physical footprint in your stores can be easier if you do it that way. So it's nice that it's you can use it.
Yep, cool. And with that, I think we are actually done for today. So we will be back with new exciting content in a while, and we'll say bye bye for now.
Bye bye.